First off, thanks for having me. As Greg is saying, my name is Kent. I'm from Copenhagen, Denmark, hence my funny accent. If you do not understand what I'm saying, just ask me to repeat myself and I'll do that. I've been working with Configuration Manager for about 20 years by now. And the last year and a half, a lot of the projects that I've been doing back home in Europe have been mobility projects. So it's still Configuration Manager, but it's MDM integrated into Config. And to be honest, first half year was not fun because it was really brutal. No matter what the customer had, even if they didn't have anything, it was almost better than what we could bring in. There were so many things not working, so many things where just waiting and waiting. And working with Config Manager, we're used to waiting, but not that long. That has changed. I would say within the last 4, 5, 6 months, we have a product now that can definitely compete with some of the other products we have on the market. And being a consultant in this space here is actually quite fun. I do not know how many of you are working actively with Config Manager and Intune today. 1, cool. 2, you don't count Jason. So we're back to 1. And that's oh, sorry, that was that is more or less what I see when I walk into a crowd. I mean, we have all heard about it. We have all maybe read some stuff about it, and we have all heard Microsoft saying that this is a great tool that can replace almost everything. Well, it's not really like that, but it can definitely fill in some gaps for most of us. So I'm going to go through that. I'm going to cover what I would normally do in a project. Because when we get assigned to an MDM project, it's not like our customers, they want some kind of a golden solution. Most of them, they just want to be able to manage the device. They want to roll out a mail profile. They want to roll out some security profiles. And so far, it's just that security profile. It's just, can we get a password out there, a 4-digit password, and then we're happy. And that's where we are right now with most of the customers. Not that we don't want to do all the fancy stuff, but they simply are not ready yet. So I'm going to walk you through that, and if you have any questions, of course, then let me know. One of the common questions I get is, so why do we want to invest in Intune or EMS when we already have Exchange? And you can do certain stuff with Exchange, but there are so many, in my opinion, so many limitations. And one of them being all the compliance and settings management, the richer inventory stuff we have in Config Manager, and also the resource access configuration. So being able to create and deploy certificates, that is one of the big things. I mean, if I want to be on the company network with this one here, I need a cert so I can get on the Wi-Fi. And how are you going to get that with some of the other solutions? So that's one of the big things in here. So I did this one here, and then I ran it by this guy, and he approved it. So so I know I'm right. So we have backup from him. Some predictions, because I've heard a lot about bring your own device, and that has been the story. And in my opinion, that will never ever work. I mean, bring your own device, that's dead even before it really got started. No one is bringing their own device and then getting access to company resources. Maybe I should rephrase that. Nobody should be bringing their own device and getting access to company resources. What we should have instead is, we should have these terms up here. So we could have an employee-owned but company-managed. That's what we are seeing now coming at our customers. You can bring your own, but you can only get your email profile. You can only get access to company resources if we can manage. It's not super common in Europe, because in Europe it's more company-owned, company-managed. So everybody usually will get a device owned by the company and paid by the company. We don't really bring our own devices. I don't know. How is it here? Would your company normally pay your device, and then, or do you bring your own?
I think we're mixed right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this one up here, this is kind of challenging because when you bring your own device, are you willing to let your company manage that device? And what does it mean when they manage the device?
I think that a big part of that is what type of device. If it's just a mobile device, if it's a tablet, a lot of people are a little bit more willing to have a company management. If it's their phone that they carry with them everywhere, it's got a lot of personal data on it, phone contacts, things like that they're using. It's a little bit more.
Exactly. Yeah. But that's, I mean, we're changing in my company. So I mean, everybody can bring their own device, but you're not getting any email profiles or anything like that unless we actually manage it. So that all changed last Friday. Not everybody was happy, but we don't. It's not a democracy. So I got all of this from Simon May. I do not know if you know him, but he has some pretty good predictions on what's going to happen in the MDM space. So I will give the slide deck after to Greg and make sure that if the stuff that I'm mentioning here and the links and so on, that I will share them. Those of you who attended SCU yesterday, you noticed that I showed this slide up here. And I showed this slide yesterday because this is really, to me, it was really an eye-opener back in October, November, when we looked at the PC sales. That will be the lower numbers here, and then we have the sales, the growth in smartphones. And I mean, I want to have a job in 3 years, and I would really like that job to be, as it is today, managing devices and so on. So I really need to learn this. That would be a very, very, very good investment in my future. Another number that Brad shared yesterday, that was Config Manager is managing 70% of all enterprise Windows clients. That's a pretty high volume we have. And knowing that also helps me when I'm selecting my management platform. I do not have a single customer where we have a standalone Intune solution. Why would I? I know that Intune, all the new features, they will go cloud first. So there are some features right now in Intune that we do not have in Config Manager, but I don't care about that. I don't want my customers to have to learn another interface, to have to learn another way of managing devices, and then they use Intune for mobile and Config Manager for PCs. That simply does not work. So for me, it's a really easy sale. All of my customers, they already have Config Manager. So now the only thing I have to convince them to do is to plug into Intune, install the connector, and then they'll be able to manage all the devices in Config Manager. I'm going to show you all of this. I don't have a whole lot of slides. I just have a few in here. So we have these two solutions, standalone Intune. Honestly, I don't see this being an enterprise interface. I do understand how it works, but being an old config manager guy with all the PowerShell integration and other script integration, I mean, that's just the way we want to work. It's so much easier for us. It's so much richer. But it's nice. There are some cool features in here. We also have a third option, and that's the Enterprise Mobility Suite. The Enterprise Mobility Suite is not a product. So when Microsoft are talking about EMS, they're actually talking about 3 different products. And we need to understand that. So EMS is more or less just a license option. It's an easy license option, so when you go out and purchase the license, I mean, it's super easy. Just log into Azure, and you'll see your 200 EMS licenses, and then you just go ahead and start activating them. And once you have activated them, you will have access to Intune and Azure AD, and also to rights management in here. I have EMS running, and one of the great things I like about EMS is the Azure AD Premium integration. I do not know how many of you have actually been working with Azure AD, but once you have it up and running, I mean, it takes you 2 minutes to do so. Then you will have access to multi-factor authentication. You will have access to stuff like password reset. You will have also identity management. So if I go, see here, I think I have my Azure Active Directory. And I'm not a huge Azure guy. I haven't been working with Azure for many years. I don't think any has, but still, being a config manager guy, we tend to like the on-premise stuff. But setting up stuff like multi-factor authentication and user password reset policies is super easy. It's literally just a matter of going in and enabling the different stuff in here and say, okay, I want my users to be able to do a remote password reset. That has a huge impact on the holiday season, because everybody tends to forget their passwords after 14 days in the sun and a lot of booze. So what they can do is they can still call service desk, of course. Otherwise, they can just log into any of the Microsoft password services or online services, and from within here you can do a password reset. Notice up now that it has a Microsoft icon. It doesn't know that it's me. So I'm on vacation, and I'm just typing in my user ID. When I do that, it should recognize, there you go, I don't know if you noticed that, but it should recognize my ID, so it changes now to my company. And then I will just go, I'm not going to reset my own password, and then I will just go through the wizard in here, and it will ask me a few questions. It will ask me to authenticate myself, and as the administrator, you can say, well, you need to authenticate yourself using the MFA application, or maybe we are going to call you, so you can control all of that. This is all part of Azure AD, and seriously, as I mentioned, it took me like 5-10 minutes to configure the password reset. Another thing I have in here will be, just go back here to my users. I have my multi-factor authentication. And that's actually prompting me right now. So just 2 seconds. There you go. So I just got a prompt on my phone. So we just use a I have a code here. And there it just changed the very same second I clicked verify or sign in. So that will be interesting. Oh, there you go. So multi-factor authentication is something I enable per user. Of course, if you have 40,000 users, you don't have to go in and select them one by one. But just enabling it per user makes it very easy for me to set up a POC environment and figure out who actually need it, if we can use it at all. One thing I learned is that you don't want to enable this overnight in the entire organization, because nobody knows what to do the day after. But I just go in here and enable it, and then the user that I've selected can go through a little wizard and set up, their own mobile phone number and their alternate email address and so on and so forth. And this is really has nothing to do with Configuration Manager, but it's still part of my mobile device strategy. Because if we want to give them access to applications on the net and all that stuff, I want to make sure that they are not just using a password, because I do not really trust users and their passwords. So Azure AD Premium, it comes with EMS, and it definitely has some neat features in here. And one of the other features that we do have, I'll show you that. That is the when I'm using my multi-factor authentication. Let's see if I have it here. Should be able to see my iPad now. So this iPad is not enrolled yet, but I still have access. I still have some of the applications here. So I'll just sign in to my apps. Apple has something about showing. Oops, it's the wrong one. So when I'm signing in here, my ADFS and my web application proxy will make sure that I get redirected. And I'm just going to do like this, because even though I have multi-factor authentication, I don't want to share my password with you. Not that I don't trust you, but now it's just sending me a multi-factor. Verify that. There you go. So this is the My Apps Azure application that I have deployed. Once I have deployed this application here, as a user, I can go in and change my profile. So in here you can see I can set up security verification, verify who I am. I can register for password reset. I can reset my password. Of course, if I can log in, I can probably remember my password, so I wouldn't be using this. And then I can also access applications. So these are the SaaS applications, and here I'm just going to access my OneDrive. Accessing my OneDrive usually requires authentication. But since I've already done that, I will have access to all of these apps. I've only created 5, but I will have access to all of these apps using single sign-on.
Is that using the native OneDrive for Business apps to launch that?
So the question is if this is using the native One Business. See, just 2 seconds, then I will answer that question. It depends. So if I go into my, just want to get rid of the iPad here. So it's entirely up to you when you're creating or adding the applications. So you can add in your own applications. There is an SDK, so you can develop, or you can use that. Or you can add an application from the gallery. So when you go in here, oops, then you just search, and if it was OneDrive, you'll see this is just, it has already been added, but you have all, I think we have like 22 or 2,400 different apps in here, and it's really super easy. I already added OneDrive, so I'm not going to do that,
Like
but
Evernote, it has a web instance on a native app.
Yeah, I think that's great being able to manage that stuff through here. You know, you can manage your users' corporate credentials, for everything in the cloud, right?
Yeah.
I think it's huge.
For one of the use cases that I have right now with the SaaS applications here at a customer is they have a very strong presence on Twitter and Facebook, and they have like a team who can go in and write tweets and so on. But as it has been up till now, when one of them are leaving, they will have to go in and reset the password. Now they don't really have to do that. Now just give them access to the application. When you give them access to the application, when you go in and assign users and configure single sign-on here, you are configuring the account and the password. So they never see that. And that's pretty sweet.
So as soon as you disable them in Active Directory, right, then they're going to be disabled everywhere.
Yeah,
Or if they
yeah.
change roles, you just
Exactly. You just
access to that app.
exactly. So when I'm if I'm looking at my my Twitter in here, so here you have your users, and it's just going in here and assigning and removing that again. Okay. That was just a quick introduction to Azure Active Directory. For Config Manager and Intune, if we want to get started, there are a few things that you need to do. First off, you need to set up an Intune subscription. Setting up an Intune subscription requires that you know someone who manages your DNS, because you need to go in and create a record that will verify that you actually own that thing. Once you have done that, then the next step would be to go in and create a collection. And I think I'll go into demo mode now instead of showing slides. So I'll just walk you through how we set everything up, and then start enrolling some devices and see how we can manage those devices.
So for those of you that have an enterprise agreement, from a licensing perspective, you can add Azure to your EA, or you can also do this through MSDN. So you have a few hours on an MSDN account that you can add Azure as well.
Mm-hmm.
We can talk more about that offline.
What about Intune? Is that covered under most EAs?
Depends. If you have an enrollment that covers an Azure agreement, then yes, it would. It's very simple to add Azure to your agreement.
I can verify that because my trial ran out this morning. So I had to go in and buy the stuff. Yeah, okay. So setting up the Intune connector that won't take you very long. And once you set up your Intune connector, there are a few things that you have to do. You have to have a collection of users. That collection of users must have a real UPN. So if you register at Cortec.com, you need to have Cortec.com for your users as the UPN. And that's normally, kind of a tricky part, because we didn't use a real UPN. So we need to go in and create a script that will go in and add in an extra UPN. Once I've done that, I'll have to go in and figure out what kind of devices that I want to manage. If we are managing Android devices, if you can misconfigure this one, I'll buy you a beer.
I'll find a way for a beer.
This is it. That's just it. I mean, just place the check mark and you're good. For iOS devices, we need to go in and create the Apple push notification certificate. This is very, very similar to AirWatch, Mobile Iron, whatever. It's the exact same requirements. So we go in and we create a 1-year certificate. And it's extremely important that you understand it's a 1-year certificate, because if you do not renew this, you will have to re-enroll your devices again. So make sure that you don't use an account from a consultant to do this, but you actually have like an Apple service account or something, because that account will also receive the warning mail. So they will be sending you a mail. When I'm creating that certificate, I'm usually giving it the name, as a date and time for when it will actually expire, because then I can always have a look at the certain here. It will take you. It's not a I mean, the process here will take you something like 3, 4, 5 minutes. You just log in with your Apple credentials, and then you generate the certificate and download the cert in there. For managing Windows and Windows phones, there is a difference between managing Windows Phone 8 and 8.1. For Windows Phone 8, you need to have the company portal, and you need to sign the company portal. You do that with a code signing certificate from Symantec. And that's even if you don't want to deploy any in-house applications. That is just for managing that Windows Phone. Microsoft has released a VB script that you can use, and then you can create, kind of your own trial certificate. And we have that running. Once in a while it expires, but it's been a while since it expired the last time. So the thing is, you just download the Microsoft POC trial kit. They have a VB script. You run the VB script. It will generate a key for you, and then you run the very same VB script again with the key in it, and then they will go in and configure Windows Phone support for you. And now I have more or less full support for my Windows 8 phones. Your 8.1 phones, they don't need this, but your 8 phones, they do. Yep, company contact information, and then we have a company logo, and we're ready to start enrolling our devices more or less. So what I have here is, I have a collection. I have two collections. I have a collection of all Intune users, and then I have a collection of all bad users. And that's one thing I learned very quickly. You'll have some users that are behaving okay, and then you have some users that will come in with a rooted device or a jailbroken device. And what is the policy around them? Do you allow access to email accounts and stuff like that when they have a jailbroken device? Generally, no. Do you have a process? Do you have a policy around it?
Well, I don't manage our current mobile IAM environment, but we have some policy written around it. I don't know if there's currently a process to disallow that.
So what I have in here is, let's just take a look at, if I go into my device collections here, I have my collections in here. We have some of my colleagues, some of the younger ones are running iOS devices, and then I have one here called all jailbroken devices. So whenever we detect a jailbroken device, it will automatically end up in here. This is just a standard config manager query. I have, just to test this, I have added in my own iPad directly. It's not jailbroken, but just to test it. So instead of disabling or unenrolling this device here, what we do is we figure out who is the primary user, and then we add that primary user to a collection, and then we put some extremely restrictive security policies on that collection. What happens in real life is that user, suddenly I cannot browse the internet anymore. There's a lot of stuff that I cannot do. So I'll usually turn myself into service desk and say, hey, something is wrong. And then we can tell you, yeah, you are wrong. The way we detect that is we have a PowerShell script here. This, if we have some automation and we have orchestrator and SMA and stuff like that, so we can have that running, and then it will just trigger automatically when someone gets into the collection. But here I'll just trigger it manually. I can run the very same script here as a scheduled task, once an hour or once every 4 hours. So it will just figure out there are no primary users found for my iPad. That's because I unenrolled it just an hour ago. Otherwise, it will find the primary user. Let me just, I must have a colleague in here that I can assign a very restrictive policy to. we go. So I'm just applying these manually. Of course, you would never ever do that. Let's run it again. Didn't detect them yet. Pretty sure you get the picture, but even though it's I still want this demo here to there we found a user. Can you see that? So we are adding user. That's Henrik, my colleague. So we're going to add him into the very, very, very bad users collection, and then on this collection up here, we'll just go. It's just a refresh. We'll just go ahead and apply some very, very restrictive policies. That's the way we handle the jailbroken scenario. And you can automate this, as I mentioned, but we just, on a standalone environment, we'll just have a scheduled task running this like once an hour, once every 4 hours. That's good enough. It doesn't have to be on the fly. So let's take a look at the enrollment process and see if I can get this device enrolled here. There you are. So first off, in order for us to enroll, we need the company portal, and then getting the company portal in real life, that has been. If it's a brand new device, it's typically us in service desk that will, before we hand over the device to the end user, we'll just walk them through it and say, okay, this is the interface, and then we'll set everything up. So I'll go ahead and enroll my device, start the enrollment process here. It takes 1, maybe 2 minutes from beginning until my device is more or less fully managed, meaning that right now I don't have anything, and within 2 minutes I will have access to my email profile, I will have access to my wireless profiles, and so on and so forth. There are a few things you have to click. There are a few things that we cannot do without.
As part of this enrollment, are you allowed to, or is the user allowed to determine whether this is a company-owned versus personally owned device?
No. So when I enroll the device here, by default, it will also always be a personal-owned device. So but it's a very good question. In Config Manager, this will be listed as a personal device. When it's a personal device, there are some limitations, or might not be limitations, but I, as a Config Manager administrator, cannot see the inventory data, your software inventory data. So the stuff that you have installed, I cannot see that. I can only see the stuff that we are actually installing. So there are some differences between company and personal-owned devices.
Now to change it to a company device, that's just a right click in the console?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now my device is enrolled, and you can see I already have access to some of the applications that I've created up here. And one of the applications that I want my users to access right away is the My Apps. So I've created this as a featured application. That was the one you saw before. Then I also have access in here to Windows Azure multi-factor authentication, so they can use this device here as the MFA. I have Skype, and I have a few other applications in here as well. And in the background, right now it's just downloading, communicating with Intune, downloading the policies that I need. So if I go in and have a look at let's see here, go into my settings, you'll see I have a management profile, and that is my email profile prompting me. So I mean, I didn't time it, but I'm pretty sure it was within 120 seconds from I began the process. So it wants a password for my account. I think I will click cancel. And if I look at my management profile right now, I don't know if you can read this, but you can see I've received my Exchange account, a Wi-Fi network, and 2 certificates. And this was one of the big issues I had like a year ago. Sometimes I seriously had to wait 45 minutes. At one point, my customer left and said, just call me when it's enrolled. And I was like, I felt a little embarrassed. So here you can see exactly what it is. I have my Wi-Fi profile up here. I have my root certificate enrolled. I also have my SCEP certificate enrolled, so I can access my Wi-Fi profile. So this story here, I mean, the enrollment story is pretty neat. It works, and it works just the same way as it works for Mobile Iron and some of the other ones. There's really no difference. So when you're managing a device, what those of you who are working today with mobile device management, what are you doing? I mean, why are you managing the device? Is it the email profile? Is it security? Is it the opportunity to remote wipe the device? Why?
VPN access with custom apps. So
Okay.
we currently manage our email profile is still managed through ActiveSync.
Yeah.
Through Exchange ActiveSync, and that hasn't changed even with implementing mobile iron. It's still the same.
Okay.
So it's just kind of the additional features of allowing users to VPN in, access certain websites through VPN, access a company portal, access a few line of business applications.
Okay.
For their mobile devices.
Yeah, yeah. And here I can do exactly the same here. I can deploy a VPN client to my device if I wanted to, but I could also use the SaaS applications and then go in and create access to my SaaS app, my own internal stuff that way. That would be pretty neat. Okay, let's have a look at. If it's okay, then I don't want to. Yeah, question.
Can you discuss a little bit like device wipe and what is actually wiped? I know a lot of customers like the containerized products, so they're only wiping, intellectual property and not necessarily user data.
Yeah, I have.
Can you do a demo of that too?
Wipe?
Let's provision your phone. Let's see.
See, I actually have an extra phone. So yeah, we can do that. Just need to spin it up the phone here.
It's the right one.
The thing is, it doesn't have a SIM card, and it's an iPhone, and you can only activate it again with a SIM card. So need a SIM card after. No. So let's have a look at some of the devices and what we can do and so on. So let me go into my mobile device collections in here. So I have a collection called all mobile devices, and to answer the first question, if I look at the device owner, then you'll see all devices once they are enrolled as personal devices. So what we have is we just have a very basic PowerShell script that will go in and change this because, I mean, most of the devices that we are enrolling, as I said in the beginning, in Europe, those are company-owned devices. But otherwise, as Greg said, if I wanna change that on my iPad here, I just go in and change the ownership, and I can select between company and personal devices. You can create collections based on this. So you could have policies, different policies targeted at mobile, personal devices and company devices. But the thing is, mistake number one when working with devices in Config Manager is to target anything against your devices. We don't do that. We target policies against our users. And there is a really good reason for that. when I signed in, when I enrolled this device just before, I communicated with Intune. It already knew who I was. It didn't know anything about my device. So if I had a policy for my device, first it would have to wait for the device to be registered, and then it would wait for the device stuff to come to the policy to come back from config manager. So and then I would have to refresh my device again, the device policy. So that's like 2 or 3 round trips to Intune, and then after 45 minutes I would get my policy. So we don't want to do that. We always want to deploy settings, profiles, what have you, to users, because then you'll see it instantly. Yeah, so I have my, let's take a look at one of the other ones that has been in here. I know that a common question is, so what can we actually see? It depends on the it depends on the device. So you can see some stuff on an Android, other stuff on an iOS device. But we can see some basic information. This is not, we don't have a VMI here. We don't have like full inventory, right? But we do have some very basic information. And if it was a company-owned device, I would also be able to see installed applications. Okay, now I cannot see that in here because we haven't deployed any applications to this one here. If I wanted to, I could also, just to answer the other one, I could do a retire or wipe. If we wipe it or retire the device, we will also remove access to email profile. That will be gone instantly. We will if we have any managed applications, we don't have that yet in config manager. We'll get that very soon, hopefully. Those will also be removed. Access to data will also be removed if we have managed data in here. But if I just retire the device, then if I have installed an application like Skype, I will still have access. I will still have that app on my device in here because it's not really a managed application.
It basically just removes the single sign-on hub.
Yeah, and then it will. I mean, it will also remove your certificate, so you cannot access the Wi-Fi any longer. I mean, your access and stuff like that will be removed.
What about any like previous conversation history?
Depends on your. I mean, what application did you use for that? Skype.
Skype retains some conversation history.
It kind of depends on what if Skype is not a managed application, like we have, right now for standalone Intune, we have managed applications, Word, Excel, and so on and so forth. That will remove everything.
Okay.
But if Skype is just an application you have made available that they can install in the store, then it won't necessarily remove it. Okay. Not if it's not a managed app. Okay. But that, I mean, that is also all of that is changing rapidly. I mean, they have new changes coming out almost every second month now. So let me just show you a few of the things that I've done in here. First off, company resource access. The first thing I do is I deploy the root certificate. I want to deploy a certificate because my customers, they want to have access to Wi-Fi, right? So I deploy the root certificate. I've exported that, and then just go ahead and deploy this one here. This is fairly simple. The tricky part comes when I want to have a SCEP certificate. So my SCEP certificate, SCEP is a standard. It's not a Microsoft. It's not an endpoint protection. But my SCEP enrollment is by far the most tricky process in here because you need to have an index server. The index server will listen to certificate requests. Then it will take those certificate requests, forward them to your PKI and your config manager, and then we will go ahead and deploy the policy and apply that certificate. There are some really good guides on TechNet right now, and if you just follow them, then you will be able to set up Index. If you have never set up Index before, I'm pretty sure you run into some challenges, then you're more than welcome to mail me. I've done it a couple of times, so I have some. I know, for instance, in the iOS certificates, there are things that you should not enable that you should enable for your Windows certificates. So there are some gotchas. I have written some blog posts around it, but you're more than welcome to mail me. But this is like a must. I mean, most are using certificates. Then I have created an email profile. So I have my Cortex mail in here. And if you have ever worked with Exchange Active Sync before, you know this. This is exactly the same. There's no hocus pocus. You just go in and specify your profile and your username and password and your sync settings, and then you're good. So that's the only thing I've done in here.
With the mail profile, is this in addition to the existing Exchange Active Sync?
This is your Exchange Active Sync profile.
Okay.
So one challenge that we have is, so what if I already have a profile?
Yeah.
And what if I already have a profile and I get a new profile, and then we unenroll the device? What happens to the original profile? That one we do not manage.
Right.
And when we do not manage, we will not remove access when we unenroll the device.
Right.
So
do you need to like unenroll from the existing
Yeah.
exchange and then enroll with this?
yeah, that's what we have. That's what we have done. I mean, today that's the issue. I mean, a lot of people, they have just enrolled their own devices. So just telling them, can you please remove that profile, and then you will get another one, because we need to be able to manage it. Yep. I can also create VPN profiles in here. I haven't created anything yet, but I could go in and then I have the larger vendors. So I can select from them, and if I have any profiles, I can just go ahead and deploy those profiles in here. Exactly the same as I've done for my Wi-Fi. So my Wi-Fi, VPN, email, and certificate profiles. The other thing that I want to deploy, that will be my MDM security settings. And here it really depends on what you have. If you have OMA DM devices like your Windows 8, 8.1 phone, then you can go in just like we did back in the good old days when we had the resource kit, got that once in a while, and then we knew what we had to do during the weekend. It's kind of the same here. Now I have some white papers, and I have a OMA DM white paper where I can go in and read all about the settings that I can configure in here, and then I can just go ahead and deploy those settings. Kind of cool. There is still a lot of settings we cannot set in the UI that we can only create as let's call them registry settings in here. So this is one setting. This setting here will just not allow an unenrollment. So once we have enrolled you, we'll prevent you from unenrolling the device. Of course, we also have the basic MDM settings, and those of you who are using settings management, you already know this interface here. So you have your standard password policies. You have some additional individual settings that you can go in and configure. And if I do my standard passwords in here, then this is more or less the only thing my customers are requesting. And I have all these plans. Hey, why don't we do like this and that and so on? And they go like, sure. Let's start with 4 digits. And we don't want to scare away our users and make it required. Because that's what we have today with AirWatch. Maybe it's exactly the same. Yep. Go through it, and then it will tell me the unsupported platforms. One thing that I have learned in here as well is that there will be settings that are only supported on iOS. There will be settings that are only supported on Android. So instead of creating one common MDM security setting, do yourself a big favor. Create one MDM iOS setting, Android setting, and Windows setting. Even though you have to do the same, work 3 times, it makes it so much easier when you have to troubleshoot and when you have to go in and edit and configure device-specific settings in here. That's, by the way, also how they do it in Intune. The final thing you want to configure will be applications. So if I go into the application model, I'm pretty sure that Greg and you have seen the app model several times before. One of the deployment types we have in here, that will be the catalog-based or store-based deployment type. Sorry. So here I just created a deep link for Word. You can find the same in Google Play, in the Windows Store, and so on. A piece of advice when you're doing this, because we cannot search when we create the deployment types, we can't search in all the stores. What you want to do instead is you want to make sure that you just find the link, just go out in somewhere in come on. Just find the link here in the Apple Store, and then copy the link. That's it. Because the link here is all you need when you go back in and create the application. So you just need to go in here, select iOS from the App Store, and then you paste it in here. It's so much easier. Otherwise, you will have to browse, and now you have to memorize that, okay, Microsoft is in page 33 in productivity, and then you'll have to go down and find it in there because there are no search in here. There is a search in the Windows Store, so that you don't have to worry about, but for iOS, it's so much easier. The wipe. So we'll see if I can get this one here. Want to see what it looks like? So, in a few seconds here, you'll see I have my iPhone and I have my iPad up here. And let's just pretend that I forgot my iPhone. Not that I care because there is no SIM card, I don't really use it. But what I can do is I can go into my company portal. I can do this from my PC. I can do this from another device that I own. And then I can just select my iPhone. So when I'm selecting the iPhone here, you can see I can do a reset if I want to do a reset. I can also remove it. So you want to learn more about resetting your device? I don't care. And I just reset it. Count to 5 or 10. And then it usually will do a factory reset over there. There you go. Oops. That was a very, very, very dumb idea. Because now, now I have to get a SIM card somewhere. But I mean, that's what I meant in the beginning. It is really working. It's an okay story. I don't in any way feel embarrassed when I go in and talk about Intune Config Manager, MDM, because it is absolutely working. There is still room for improvement, of course, because it changes so quickly. But doing the wipe, I could also just have removed it, right? Unenrolled it. That wouldn't have been so dramatic and it wouldn't have been so fun to watch. So who has a SIM card that I can borrow for 5 seconds? You have one?
phone.
Is it the right one? Yep. I only got until 11 o'clock, and I've already gone 2-3 minutes over time. So I don't know if there are any questions.
Another 5 minutes or so if you
Okay.
want, or questions.
Any
Any
questions?
questions?
No. Do you know how to get started with this?
Follow
Yeah.
you.
That would be great. But and I would love to come on site, but not in February. I thought it would be warm here, so I didn't bring a jacket. That was mistake number one. No, but I mean, seriously, setting up the Intune stuff, it won't take you long. The thing that takes you the longest will be setting up, Azure Active Directory sync and DirSync. But if you already have an Office 365 account, then you already have this in place. So you just sign into Intune, and then you already have the infrastructure. So you just access your 25 user trial license, and all is ready. So that part is easy. Yeah.
When you were showing the screen of your device, it looked like there was an easy way to remove the user in case they were worried about that. Is that true? Was there a button where a user could hit just remove the whole thing?
Yeah. So if I go back into another cool thing is, when working with Config Manager, there is one thing we love, that is log files. See if I get that here.
Shake it, Kent, shake it.
Yeah, I'm shaking it. I'm hitting the volume. There you go. So the iOS devices, to see the log files, you just shake it. You don't have to look like an idiot about it. Just shake it, and then you can email the log file, and it will email the log file to. I didn't go in and assign my password. Remember that. But then it will just email the log file to my to the manager. So that's kind of cool. Back to your question. Sorry for that. So I can go into my own device in here, and then I can reset, remove my device. I can synchronize the device. I can synchronize the policies now. We couldn't do that in the beginning. That's kind of neat. But if I remove the device, then I will also remove access to email. All of that will be gone. So I don't have access to any of the data any longer. I don't have access to any of the prop stuff. So that will be removed as well. That's one of the things that I could configure with my OMA DM policy that I showed you very quickly. I could go in on my Windows phones and say, okay, you cannot remove the device because we will apply that policy. We haven't seen that policy for iOS and so on yet, but that will come.
Wow. Remember the thing there though is that Apple controls this. Right? Apple controls what you can do with their device. If Apple doesn't want you to do something with their device, you're not doing it. And that's really the end of the story right there. So if they don't want you to be able to enforce that, you're not going to do it.
Yep. And another thing, you can see here, I have my changed password. So once I get back home from this holiday, I've forgotten all about my password, then I can just access it here, and it will go to the cloud service, and from here I can just go through the password reset stuff. Yep.
How does it handle with software updates for the mobile devices? Do they have to be normal after major releases, or does it is there restriction settings you do on?
See, that's the thinking about the new iOS updates and so on.
Yeah.
We cannot control that, and we being the config manager team. So one thing, let me let's just get rid of that one.
Are you asking about if Microsoft supports the release updates like right away?
No, if when a user goes through and updates to iOS 9, do they have to re-enroll?
No, they don't have to re-enroll. No, that they don't have to do. But I thought, okay, sorry, I thought you meant if we.
In previous releases, it looks like Microsoft is pretty well on top of supporting the latest iOS releases.
Yeah.
They're pretty well committed to doing day one support.
Yeah.
One of the things that we have done here is, if I look at my, develop some custom reports in here. Let me just find, because this is a very common question. People will start updating, some will never ever update, so you do not really know how many different versions you have of iOS, how many versions you have of Android. You don't really know how many of your colleagues have, like 4, 5, 6 devices and so on. So these reports here, along with the active and inactive, will give me an overview. This is why I like having it in Config Manager, because I can create this stuff just like I'm creating normal. This is a normal report. So I can drill in here, and then it will just open up a sub report that we have that will be specific for my Lumia devices, and I can see if it's jailbroken and who owns it and so on and so forth. But this is custom stuff, but it is in the database. And once it is in the, let's just get rid of. Once it is in the database, I can also add it to, let's see, we have some information here, I think. Not that long ago, we developed a dashboard, and the dashboard here has a lot of widgets, and some of those widgets up here, those are widgets that I can just go in and create. But you can see up here I have also for mobile devices. So I can see how many mobile devices we have, how many of them are inactive or jailbroken and so on. And if I had a VPN connection, I don't have that now, and clicks here, then it will just open up the report that I showed. So that's the kind of control you can get with Config Manager, which is kind of neat. Yeah. Any other questions?
Nope. Okay,
Nope.
great. Thanks, Ken.
And I was serious about the SIM card. I really need one now.
Is it just one to plug in to get it activated? And then
Yeah, then
okay.
just to get it activated.
Yeah, I'll pull it out of mine. That's not a problem.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll take about a 10-minute break. FYI, our next presenter is Charles Joy.